Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of my Age of Wonders 3 co-op series with Bob of Black Arrow Gaming. In the previous episode, the enemies hit back hard with a lot of tier 4 units, taking a couple cities away from us and killing some pretty good units and heroes. But we do remain in good defensive position. The enemies are going to have to come across water and through mountains to get at us above ground, and they don't seem to be expanding much below ground. Bob and I have some pretty good fast units as well and can do some work picking off smaller invading armies. There's still a lot of work to be done, but the trend of attack, counterattack, attack, counterattack starts to swing back in our favor in this episode. And right there at the beginning of the turn I moved my ships to safety. They are very damaged, so I want to get them away from the enemy's lands as quickly as possible. Hopefully I'll be able to get them all the way back to the city where they were built so they can heal. Then I can send them out with those other ships that I've built since then. I moved my embarked army onto land to get them to safety. I'm moving this other army up to help defend Engrenast. They can't all get there, so I'm going to separate out the 4 faster ones, and the 2 priests will join them at the beginning of next turn. Research, I'm going to get advanced logistics to help my units move faster over roads, help my flying units move faster. There you can see Bob lost a pretty big battle underground. Those juggernauts just do not quit. Losing the city was tough, but Bob didn't lose any great units in that battle. We're probably going to make a stand at this next city up here in a future episode. Again, research. I'm going to get advanced logistics just so we can, since I'm kind of running back and forth through a number of cities to defend them all, this will make that a lot easier. So many units I want to build, I don't have enough gold to make them all. I'm still prioritizing making infantry in my throne, and I'm trying to get a priest or 2 out every turn. I make them in different cities each time, just to kind of spread the defense around. You can see I've got a pretty good group of support units here. Support units by themselves aren't great, so I do need to spread these out, team them up with some of my shock troopers and stuff. I'd like this builder to build a road that connects all my cities, but again, I don't have enough gold to make units, so I definitely don't have enough to be building roads all over the place. I do put up a few roads in really important spots. This cherub's gonna find some of the stuff that I didn't see in Brown's Land last time. It's also going to give me a better idea of what kind of units Brown has in their territory. I know they're attacking with Manticore Riders, but I don't know whether they have a lot more Manticore Riders back at home or if they have different units or what they have. Gonna clear out this bandit camp. The camp never did anything to bother me. I'd like to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. It says probable victory. This ends up being a very easy battle. The shock trooper's killing momentum ability is fantastic. I'm gonna curse just because I have nothing better to do. Considered leaving them all on guard, but what I'm going to do is break the obstacle and send this next one in just to get a hit on him. And fortunately I panic him, so he's going to run away and let me kill him. Throw net didn't work. That might have been a problem if it had worked. Would have blocked the gap I just made. And now again with killing momentum, it's very easy. Lets me kill a guy and make a hole in the wall. Right there. Which lets me kill another guy and kill another guy. And that's that. I maybe should have ran up and grabbed that gold, because right here I'm just going to sell these things for gold. I don't really want a Marauder or a Red Raptor. Could have grabbed that gold on the ground. I could have used my shock troopers, which are a little bit faster. Wouldn't have slowed the army down that much. Gonna put Beacon of Faith on this city to get it to grow faster, since I'm not building a storehouse. Building buildings to get cavalry out as quickly as possible. I think I end up marking him, yeah. Gonna mark some more armies as heretics. I'm fortunate to get a lot of their tougher armies marked. That's gonna give all my devout units a pretty big bonus against them. I think all the units in my army are devout right now, actually. This army here has their leader in it and a few decent units, so I'm going to mark it. Dragons have a quest for me, but I have nothing that can go down and do that. Which is unfortunate. It'd be nice to get those dragons as vassals, partly because dragon units are awesome, partly because it'd give me line of sight to see if the goblins are coming from underground. And apparently we're going to watch Bob fight a battle this time. I think Bob needs to leave one of my battles in on his video, just to be fair. Should convince him to leave in the battle where I take out a Manticore Rider. That one's pretty quick and pretty cool. I'm sorry, that was a spoiler for all of you who don't want to be spoiled on things that happen 10 minutes in the future. Alright, back to the important stuff. Since I got that gold from clearing the bandit camp, I'm going to put a Crypt of Unlife here. Just anything that gives a defensive bonus to this city at this point, since it is the focus point of all our defense. Really, coming up through Engernas is the only way any of the enemies can get at our land without going across water. I have 50 gold left over, so I'm checking all my cities to see if there's anything I can build for 50 gold. And I am going to finish by taking out this one unit. It's going to do a little bit of damage to my ships. It's fortunate he didn't attack one of the more damaged ones. Since he did get that critical hit, it probably would have destroyed it. And that was the end of the turn. Move my priests up just in case that city gets jumped. We don't have great units defending that city, but we have a lot of units, and I think that's more important at this point. We use our best units to counterattack and use our kind of our swarming, ranged defensive type units to defend. That was the first underground teal unit we've seen all game. Surprisingly. Was a frostling. He might have gotten it from an inn, or that might mean he has some frostling cities. I've also seen Tigrans, Goblins, Orc units from this guy. He's got a pretty good variety. Gonna let him move all his stuff. Seems to be coming after this city, which I've sadly forgotten the name of. Antharia, I think, is the name. Something like Antharia. You can see there are teal and brown units all over the place, but they're just little straggler armies. Their big armies are in the fog of war right now. The orange stack with all those juggernauts that just took Bob's city, all the brown manticore riders that took my city in the previous episode. Not entirely sure where those are at the moment. Teal's threatening Illinois right there. Actually seems to be ignoring it, but he could go take it next turn if he wants. I'm going to have to do something to stop that. See, I'm not building roads there. I'm going to go build a short road through that wetland. The city did get a magic academy built, so I'm going to build a few priests underground as well as a few priests above ground. They'll both be equally upgraded and promoted. So the only difference is how far they are from the front lines, how far they are from the back lines. Some more teal units coming in after Antharia, but nothing scary. Considered running one of my other armies back to help defend it. I'm counting out to see how many turns it would take. You can see I do run that guy halfway. I think I do end up using him to defend Antharia, leaving Engranost to this other smaller army and Bob's armies. Gonna get a blood pavilion built just to help with the defense. I end up building blood pavilions in, I think, 3 different cities in this episode. I think orcs have one of the better city defense things. Blood pavilion only does physical damage, but it does a lot of physical damage, and there aren't many units that resist physical damage. That stack of infantry hit the haste berries, so now they can get down in pretty close to all of Teal's stuff here. Trying to see how fast they could get to Illinois just in case Illinois gets captured. But I do come up with another idea. Well, first of all, they ran headlong into a Teal army that was in the fog of war, so I'm going to go ahead and kill those. Probable victory. The only big threat here is those evangelists. They could convert my shock troopers, and I have no way to dispel that without casting a spell from my leader. So if they got either or any of my shock troopers converted, I would just have to go kill the evangelist to get my shock trooper back. The air elemental is also a little bit tricky since it has inflict stun, and my units are pretty vulnerable to any sort of debuff. Don't have any great spells for this situation. Smite would have been nice, but I couldn't kill anything with it. Maybe could have used Smite if it came down to the very end of the battle and there's just one unit left. I could have finished it off or something. Of course, immediately my unit gets stunned. Really want to take out that air elemental as quickly as possible, so I focus all my units on getting flank attacks on it. Which I do, and with killing momentum, that lets my shock trooper go on defense, which is actually really useful because this guy tries to convert him and he resists. Had I not been able to put him on guard, his resistance would have been lower. He might have gotten converted right there. But now one of his evangelists has used his convert. I'm going to use my exalteds to fly up and get in the face of the other evangelist. Use up all his movement points. He can't convert those exalteds, and he can't move close enough to my shock troopers to convert them. Just end the turn, let the exalteds handle this, which they do just fine. They're stealing about as much health as they're losing from getting hit by these guys. And killing momentum lets me finish them off with just one unit. Now, I noticed I had a different plan I could use here. Those enemy units in my city aren't that tough. I can fly my exalteds up to defend my city with them, using my shock troopers to kind of protect Nipuk back there. And those two exalteds I flew up actually end up doing a lot of work for me. I end up changing kind of my my overall strategy because of it. Brown's got some really big cities. They are a warlord, so they get the authority of the sword, which lets them add +1 to their domain. That's probably what's going on down there, why all their cities are so huge. Bob's tunnel's finally been completed. Maybe could have left, or could have sent that orc priest to the other city, but I'd rather have it defend the bigger, more important city. Again, this army did not go pick up that gold because I did want to get it out front as quickly as possible. I thought the gold would be insignificant. That might have been a mistake. That gold, insignificant as it might have been important. Might have helped me get one more unit out in a city. I'm going to mark these units as heretics just to make it that much easier for my exalteds to take them out. And I'm going to start casting Blight Empire. Orcs dislike the Blight, but we're going up against races that hate it. Elves hate it, Draconians hate it. This even this goblins don't mind blight, but they're using a lot of orc units, tiger units, frostling units. They're using a lot of units that would hate blight. Plus, I can research the spell that makes my cities and my units like blight. So having Blight Empire will end up being a pretty big disadvantage to the enemies and a bonus to me. Since all Bob's units are ghouls, they aren't affected by terrain type. So I think this is a good decision for this game. Not something I usually cast, because when I'm playing with a teammate, he's usually someone who hates Blight as well. I don't want his units to have a penalty when they're in my land, but this game it's going to work out fine, Bob's units being ghouls. Very beginning of the turn, I fly out and attack these guys. This guy really likes casting that healing shower spell, but it does him absolutely no good. My units do way too much damage. I am almost able to finish this off in one turn. Now I'm quickly going to go up and hit the Exalted. Even though the enemy is also an Orc Exalted, I have a huge advantage with my life-stealing abilities, and with him being marked as a heretic. Gonna move that army up to defend Antharia. Gonna move my ships out of the way. They are pretty much to safety. It'll take them a few turns to get back to the city to heal, but they shouldn't get attacked in the meantime. Thought about doing auto combat because I thought I would lose that, but then I noticed I was on the water. This cavalry unit's not going to be able to catch up to my cherub, so I'm just going to fly him away. This battle takes about 30 seconds, nothing at all happens in it. You can skip that if you want. For those of you who don't know, who haven't watched Bob's video series, when you have a unit that's a lot faster than the unit attacking it, you can just run away in these one-on-one battles. If you go 5 turns without any damage being done, you win the battle. You can do the same thing against Lost Souls. Even though there's 3 of them, they move so slowly you can just run away. Gonna get my cherub up onto some mountains, help keep them safe. And in so doing, I finally discover Brown's Throne City. Not in a spot that we can run in and attack, unfortunately. Got another Exalted made. I'm going to hold him back until I have 2 Exalteds that I can send out. There's a lot of these small armies around. Because of how easy it was to take out those first 2 armies with my Exalteds, I end up changing my strategy, my tactics, everything. I'm going to hit these hasteberries and go get this Manticore Rider. Because my land has a lot of rivers, wetlands, mountains, the enemy's going to be slow moving through it. Excuse me. Enemy's going to be slow moving through it, but my flying units can just fly straight over and attack them easily. Plus, I discovered in this battle just how good Inflict Daze can be. Inflict Daze prevents the enemy unit from using any attacks, any retaliations, any abilities. They can move and they can still defend, but you can hit them without getting hit back. I do manage to daze him, which lets me finish him off with this guy on the next turn, apparently. Exalteds, I was about to waste a smite there because I didn't realize he was dazed. Exalteds get Inflict Daze on their second medal, their bronze medal rank. I haven't used Exalteds enough in the past to really realize how good that is. I'm going to taunt the enemy unit by running around him and he can't hit me. But since I realized how good a flying unit in my land is, and how good Inflict Daze is, I'm basically going to stop making Exalteds, or stop making Shock Troopers in my Throne City, and focus on making primarily or only Exalteds. At least until the enemies stop streaming in units like this. In a big... like a big 12 on 18 type battle, I think Shock Troopers are probably still a little bit better because they do have more attack and they do have more hit points. But in the current situation, Exalteds are a lot better. In fact, with the Exalteds' mind control immunity and spirit, 100% spirit resistance, they might actually be better than the Shock Troopers overall when I'm going up against the Theocrat stuff. Now that I got my backup army to Antharia to help it defend, I'm going to be able to run my King's army out and help take out some of these little straggler armies. There's Orange sending in a pretty small army. Bob's going to be able to take out pretty easily. And not a whole lot going on right here. It's putting merchandise up in my city. I do have a little bit of gold. I'm going to make a martyr. I'm going to pair that martyr up with the shock trooper just because I have enough gold to do it. I was hoping I'd find an army in that fog of war that I could attack this turn. But that doesn't happen. I'll have to wait until next turn for this guy to, for this army to take some stuff out. And now we wait. Wait for Bob to get out of my way so my underground army can get through that tunnel. I think I end up not even showing that on this video. That army goes through the tunnel and takes out a magma forge. I just do automatic combat, so nothing important. I don't have gold this turn, but next turn I will build a road through those wetlands so units can get south faster. I kind of wanted to clear this out. It said probable defeat. I should have thought about it a little more. I might have been able to do that, but for the same reason I didn't go get the gold, I want that army up in the front lines as quickly as possible. Fighting a tough battle and losing a couple units would have been counterproductive there. Bob being slow. There's the magma forge to go clear. Gonna move some more stuff quickly. I joined my exalteds up with my shock troopers so I can go take this army out. I found a minor problem here. Because all my units are dedicated to evil, that Crusader with its Holy Champion gets a pretty big bonus against me. I haven't seen many Crusaders from this guy yet, so I'm not too worried about it, but if he gets smart and starts making Crusaders to counter me, that could be an issue. Power of the Word was annoying, but it only affected 2 of my units. And in a battle where I have him way outnumbered and outgunned, Power of the Word's not going to bother me too much. Especially when all his units are, he only has 1 ranged unit. Power of the Word keeps me from moving, but I can still attack if they get up in my face. And this is all pretty easy, even though those 2 guys don't get to join in the battle. That guy up there was dazed, so he couldn't do anything. Another army down. I'm going to run up and take out something else. This is Teal's leader. Going to be another easy battle. I think he's used up all his spell points, so he can't really do anything. Unfortunately, we don't even know where Teal's throne is, let alone have an army in position to go get it. But this will prevent them from casting any spells for a few turns at least. And now, I think I'm going to go kill this Griffin Rider. Guess I'm waiting for the enemy to move some units or something there. So once I finish this off, I think this is about 15 or 16 units I've killed without taking any losses, just by picking off stragglers. This army I'm really just trying to decide which units I want to give experience to. I do want to get this Exalted up to gold medal rank, so I let it use Absorb Pain. And the Phalanx doesn't have much experience, so I let it do the hitting. The phalanx can't get up to the Griffin Rider, so I just finish it off with my Exalted and get a level up. And one final unit to take out. Just do auto combat. It's a 7-on-1. 7 good units versus 1 tier 1 unit. There's no way I was going to lose anything there. Now I have a decision to make with this army. Decisions to make with a lot of armies, actually. I'm going to start researching Hallowed Domain. I believe I changed my mind and researched something else. Got another Dreadnought. I do have a Dreadnought leader already, so I don't want another one. Take pretty much anything over a Dreadnought. I like Dreadnought leaders, I just don't like them enough to have more than one, if that makes sense. It really doesn't make sense, I realize, but don't have anything cheap I can put in this city, even though I do have 80 gold to spare. I think I go back and rethink that decision as well. Just know that something major happens before this turn ends that causes me to rethink pretty much everything I'm doing now. And there you can see it. There's Brown showing up with 10 units, 8 of them being Manticore Riders. The other 2 are also flying units. It's something I'm going to have to go back and think about. Since there's nothing threatening these cities, I can just put merchandise in them for now. I do start a priest, but again, I think I changed my mind. This army is getting pretty close to being able to rejoin the actual action. That'll be a nice little boost wherever it ends up. Just gonna do auto combat, get a little extra gold. That little extra gold lets me, well, okay. Bob and I both have armies down in Engranost that are close enough to get back and help defend this city at the beginning of next turn. I also have my main army close enough to get back and defend. So we have options. We have the firepower to defend. It's just a question of what armies do we use to defend with. We don't want to pull everything out of Engranost and have it get captured. But we don't want to send an army up that's going to get slaughtered by the Manticore Riders. I definitely want to get my main army in there, especially with all of them having resurgence. I can afford to kind of use them as meat shields against the Manticore Riders. Even if they get killed, they will come back at the end of the battle. Plus, they have some great spells they can cast. I also have this other army with some pretty good units that's sitting close to the city. So what we end up doing is I'm going to put the 6 best units I have next to that city all in one stack. I'm going to move my main army up, and Bob is going to move his king's army up. That will give us a lot of spell casting options. There you see I'm going to put a Flow Rock Citadel just for some extra wall defense. That is probably completely pointless, I realized after we stopped playing. Because all the units attacking that city are flying, they're not going to be attacking the wall anyway. That might be something I change before we end the turn next time we play. And here I have a little bit of extra gold, so I am going to finish this road through the wetlands. I'll speed things up quite a bit, and then I'm going to build a road down south eventually, whenever I find myself with extra gold. I'm going to cast Blight Empire. That might come just in time to make those Manticore Riders hate the terrain they're in. We'll see what happens there. And I am going to change and research something I can get in one turn that will help with the battle. I think about doing Domain of Corruption. I even leave it on that for a while. The problem is that's a spell I would have to cast at the beginning of next turn. And in order to do that, it would use up my casting points, so I couldn't cast any spells during the actual battle itself. So I am going to change my mind about that. Although that is another decision I might rethink in the next week. I guess that's something you can comment on. What spells you think I should cast, what I should research, how exactly we should go about defending that city. If anyone out there has any brilliant ideas, I think we'll be fine with the strategy we have, but there might be something better we can do. Another issue is down here, that orange army is coming up. Something we need to remember is there's also a Nightshade Fairy in that army. So take all those good units you can see there and add a pretty good tier 3 ranged unit to the mix. Again, waiting for Bob to get out of my way. Here's my 2 Exalteds. Conveniently can hit these haste berries. Fly down over the water. They're not close enough to help join the battle, but they will be in a position to help take the city back if we lose it, or help counterattack if we win. You can see teal units have all but disappeared. What would have been a pretty considerable invasion force if they had all been in one army has dwindled down to just a couple goblin units, or a monkey and a big beetle. You can kind of see up there, just on the edge of the fog of war to the northwest. Eventually I'm going to move my units. Hopefully that didn't happen in this transition. Okay, good. I'm going to keep the priests and leave out my weakest shock trooper and send the phalanx in, because I think the phalanxes will be really important against the flying Manticore Riders. I'm also going to get my shock trooper and my mystic and put them out on the water. I don't want to leave any vulnerable spots where the Manticore Riders can hit this small army, which will only pull in a small chunk of our other defenders into the battle. By putting them out on the water, now if they get attacked, it would only pull in any flying, swimming units or other embarked units. That right now is only going to be those ships. So the Manticore Riders would destroy the Shock Trooper and the Mystic and destroy those ships, but I could probably do enough damage to take a couple of them out. Plus, those 2 embarked units sitting right by the sea, if the Manticore Riders go directly at the city, instead of attacking the units around the edge, it will pull those last 2 embarked units into the battle. And you can see I end up going with Dispel. We don't end the turn, so I can change my mind and go back to Domain of Corruption. You can see Bob's army has moved up to get into position to move. We're going to have to each move our armies quickly at the beginning of the next turn. When the AI sees a city they can capture, they usually go straight for it, so we're going to have to be fast. That's pretty much it for the action in this episode. Again, if you have any great ideas for city defense, or great ideas for how we can counterattack, assuming we win that battle, let us know in the comments on either my channel or Bob's channel. To be honest, I usually read the comments on Bob's channel more than I read the comments on my own channel, just because he gets more comments. Here's the map for this episode. It's pretty much the same as last time. Major difference is all the little teal dots in my land have disappeared for the most part. There's just a couple of them left. And we have discovered Brown's throne, finally, down there in Elendil. Still don't have Green's throne or Teal's throne, but we are pretty confident it is underground. We will find it eventually. It's a lot of arrows this time. Probably enough arrows that the map gets a little bit confusing. Just know that I have armies all over the place. They're going to focus on defending Anthoria. If we fight off those Manticore Riders, they're going to counterattack. Up in the northwest there, I'm going to use some kind of flying armies. I have an army of support units out there. They're going to kind of roam around, pick off any invading armies that they see. And if anyone's building a city out there, I did see, I think it was a brown settler out there a few turns ago. Try to take out any weak cities, raise them, plunder them, just make sure no one's getting a foothold out there. If possible, maybe even capture and hold some cities out there. Clear out structures, build a city, who knows. Just make sure if anyone has units or cities up in that part of the map that it's me, and not Brown and not Teal. Bob armies are going to help defend Anthoria, but most of his armies are going to be going underground, because he does need to defend against this Orange attack. If Orange takes that city, they can move above ground through that cave entrance and threaten Bob's homeland pretty easily. I do have a decent army with 6 units that can help him defend the city. They're not going to be great against Juggernauts. They are priests, which will do almost no damage to a Juggernaut, and Crusaders, which are tough, but they are slow, so they won't be able to rush the Juggernauts pretty easily. And even though they have a lot of defense, they don't have a lot of hit points, so that could be a problem. I'll probably end up using my army to try to take out Orange's flesh units, while Bob can use his army to take out Orange's machines. I literally just thought up that idea, so I'm going to have to present that to Bob and see what he thinks. Overall, this episode was much better than last one. I think we'll probably have a few turns where we're doing pretty well, and then we'll get hit with a big counterattack again and have to fight that off again. That seems to be the trend in these types of games. This game could kind of become a quagmire for a while. Hopefully we'll be able to break through quickly so this series doesn't get too boring though. Thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the first 11 episodes, subscribe, click like. I've linked to Bob's channel in my description. Go check him out as well if you have not. You'll be able to see his perspective, see his battles, and hear us discussing strategy and hear his narration live while we're playing. Thanks again. It's going to be a while until the next episode. Probably 6 or 7 days at least, but I will see you then.